You know dragons can't be domesticated, right? Hey everybody, welcome into Rich Makes Sense. Today, we're going to be talking about the finale of one of the most celebrated, the most sexually charged, the most violent finales in television history. I'm talking, of course, about Modern Family. Modern Family, Oh, Game of Thrones? Oh yeah, that's ending too. Okay, we can edit this out, right? Okay. I'm talking, of course, about Game of Thrones. In a previous video, dozens of you watched my recap about Season 8 of Game of Thrones, leading into the final 2 episodes, and a warning of how sometimes by human nature, we don't really get satisfied by season finales. Oh, and I also talked about how Sam Malone from Cheers clearly had gonorrhea, and how his bar probably got closed by some health inspector scandal that happened in the 90s, allegedly. Yeah, I talked about that too. So let's get to the final episode recap for Game of Thrones. Daenerys has just torn through King's Landing like a Taco Bell breakfast burrito tears through my colon after saying Chikaris. Jon and Tyrion walk through the city to find the charred remains of all the women and children. Grey Worm is doing Grey Worm things. He and Jon almost come to blows. And then Tyrion goes to look for Jaime and Cersei. Finds Jaime and Cersei's crushed bodies by all the rocks and breaks into a violent cry, lamenting his status as the world's worst Little League coach. Seriously, Tyrion, it's a bad run. Dany addresses her troops, saying, "You killed all my enemies in their armor, and some of my littler enemies in their onesies of armor." Tyrion tells Dany he is off the force, and then he is subsequently arrested. Jon goes to see Tyrion, at which time Tyrion tries to talk to Jon that he needs to kill Dany. Jon will not listen. We finally see Dany at the Iron Throne. Drogon allows Jon Snow in through the velvet rope so he can go see Dany. At which time he appeals to Dany's goodness and her heart, asking her to allow the people to have a say in what happens to them. When Dany finally tells Jon Snow that they don't get to choose, Jon brings her in for a kiss, and then, yes, he sticks her with it. His knife. Sorry. Drogon senses something is wrong, and he comes and sniffs Dany, kind of like that video of that dog trying to get that fish to come back to life. Drogon then looks like he's about to kill Jon Snow, but he turns his fiery vengeance onto the Iron Throne itself. So, Drogon is a socialist. Okay. But that moment, that poetic moment right there, will no doubt end up being a tweet from Jaden Smith in which he says, "If dragons were real, they would be the most intelligent creatures in the universe." Sure, Jaden. Democracy gets a laugh at Tyrion's trial, and then eventually it's life of the party, always with the funny joke, Bran is elected the ruler of the Seven Kingdoms, at which point Sansa goes, excuse me, Canada, we kind of want to do our own thing. Tyrion, in an amazing moment of failing upwards, becomes Bran's hand. Tyrion is like the guy in your office who gets people above and below him fired, and they just keep him around because he knows where the bathroom key is. Tyrion goes to Jon Snow and tells him that he will be returning to the Night Watch, but he cannot get married, he cannot bear children, and he cannot own land. So basically, me. Arya, Jon, Sansa, and life of the party, always with the funny jokes, Bran say goodbye to each other. Brienne writes in everyone's yearbook, "Good luck in the future." That is such a cop-out. Jon gets reunited with Ghost in a move which will no doubt increase the numbers of husky rescues in the next 4 to 6 months. It's a commitment, folks, okay? It's a lot of fur. And that's Game of Thrones. 72 episodes, 8 years, 3, 2, 1, dragons, and a mad queen. Many people were hurt when Dany laid waste to the people in King's Landing, a character that they had felt for, had empathy for, and seen her go through so much pain and adversity. They kept rooting her on. They fell in love with Dany. It was also a character that was going to cause them to have a lot of difficult conversations with their newborn to 8 years old daughter when no one will sit with her during lunch. Yeah, good luck with that one. Good choice. While there are hints throughout George R.R. Martin's books about Dany eventually becoming evil, what about those of us who don't read? I'm not going to fall for your fake prose, okay? That's just the liberal media agenda. or the agenda of people whose agenda it is to say that's just the liberal media's agenda. People say that Dany's heel turn in episode 5 of season 8 came on way too fast and it wasn't earned. Wasn't it? Wait, wasn't it? I always get this wrong. Wasn't it? Okay, so that means was not it earned? Okay, was not. Oh, I got it. Yes, it was earned. Daenerys Targaryen has always been dogged by her family's history and her destiny to become the Mad Queen. Now, she's tried to fight it all along the way while also executing tons of people, but never innocent women and children. But all the signs were there. Her family, her dark past, all the things that she had been through, all the people who had betrayed her, the isolation that she had felt after the barbecue at Winterfell, the killing of her bestie, the rejection of her Nefbu. All the signs were there. And yet somehow it came as a surprise. Dany was like that ex that you always made excuses for whenever she told the waiter to bend the knee or she chewed out a barista for getting her order wrong. And yet we always made excuses for her. Until one day we looked around at all the toxicity that she had caused and said, yeah, I need to get out of this. Now, you can certainly make the argument that Dany was written as a bitter ex-girlfriend burning all of your stuff, or that the show did her a disservice by showing a female character trope who longs for power, ultimately not being able to handle it. Or you can see her arc as a cautionary tale to not be so obsessed with things like thrones or power, and instead finding pride along the way in the adversity you've overcome, and enjoying spending time with family or the love of your life. Sometimes all at the same moment. At the end of the day, Daenerys Targaryen just followed that old axiom of life. If you look around your life and all you see are people who have betrayed you, eventually you're going to have to take a long look in the mirror and realize that the common denominator that all these people have in common is the fact that they're alive. And eventually you're going to have to kill them all. I know, it's a harsh reality that we all have to come to at one point or another. Just like realizing that Groot is not a real person, or the even more painful realization that Vin Diesel is a real person. So that's this edition of Rich Makes Sense. Click like, subscribe, and send me a comment down below. And until next time, take care.